Welcome to Cage Minds Uncensored. I'm your host, Micah Frankel. A shout out to Edwin Ruiz and Mac 10. Couldn't do this without their support. It was a big weekend of combat sports and mixed martial arts, like always. We got 3 events from the national scene to talk about, and I do got an MMA and boxing event from the local scene to talk about where I was out at King of the Cage this weekend. We'll wrap up the show talking about that. But first, let's talk about some of the national fights from this weekend. Friday night, LFA on Access TV, stoppages up and down the card, 4-fight prelims that saw stoppages in all 4 fights, 2 in the first round. Check those out at cageminds.com. A certain kind of guy is what it takes to wear pink, especially when that pink is on a romper. Juan Adams, we've talked to him before, highly credentialed wrestler. When he wants you on the ground, that's what's going to happen. Juan Adams, after feeling it out on the feet, getting a little more real life time in there, a couple more minutes, throws the white dips into the ground. When he wanted that takedown, he got the double underhooks, and I mean the horsepower that Adams put into driving his legs. Huge takedown, made his way to a dominant position, and ground and pounds while talking trash, forcing Dipson to tap from strikes. Zach Fears, relentless on his takedowns, takes down Lanny Dardar, eventually gets to the back, flattens out, and punches to the finish. Carlo Prater, relentless with his takedowns, and in the second round pulls out an arm triangle choke of Eric Scallon. The vacant light heavyweight title was on the line when Alex Nicholson fought Ryan Spann. Nicholson stuns Spann early with a right to the temple. Spann is looking for his takedowns. Nicholson is swinging punches, hammer fists, elbows, trying to do his darndest to defend. Spann is busted open under the left eye. Spann is sent flying back after a takedown attempt. Nicholson is trying to ground and pound for the finish. Spann somersaults away from danger, getting space. Eventually, they make it back to the feet, and it looks like Alex Nicholson is a bit gassed. He has punched himself out. They exchange 1-2s. Spann fires off a second combination. The jab obviously lands. Nicholson turns, exposing his chin. The cross, the follow-up on the 1-2, the 2 of the 1-2 lands perfectly for Spann, dropping Nicholson. Follow-up hammer fist. The third time is the charm in a legacy title fight. Ryan Spann wins the vacant light heavyweight title for LFA in one of the most thrilling one-round fights you will see ever, and possibly round of the year. Already in that category as a candidate, and we're just in January. Gotta let you guys know that we do have a special interview with Ryan Spann talking about that LFA victory coming up this week. Keep paying attention for it. The Rise of the King. We will talk to Ryan Spann about his accomplishment, his continued desire on his journey, where he wants to go next, how the camp really went. A whole lot of great stuff this week coming up in that interview with Ryan Spann. In the main event, the vacant middleweight title is on the line. And remaining undefeated, Anthony Hernandez beats Brendan Allen. And the most impressive part of this is on one judge's scorecard, it was 50-45, even with Hernandez getting mounted, I believe, in the 4th round. Now, the other 2 judges did give that 4th round to Allen, but I could conceivably see the 50-45 because the want, that factor of just wanting, of keeping working, of keeping that engine going and digging down deep. That's what Anthony Hernandez did at every turn and kept winning the grappling aspects, kept winning the scrambles and getting in the better positions consistently against Brendan Allen and earning the biggest win of his career Who knows if it's true, but after the fight, there are rumors saying that Brendan Allen retired. I've heard guys do it. It's emotional after all you've put into a camp, not having your hand raised, not performing the way you want to. Hopefully, we do see Allen back again, but at the moment, very excited to see what's next for Anthony Hernandez. At 6-0 and having this title, I believe we will see some defenses before he gets that call to a Bellator or to the UFC. But Anthony Hernandez, he made a statement. A young man at 185 pounds to watch out for in a division that LFA has continued to develop. Love the champions that they have put at middleweight into the UFC, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later if you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, your boy. Now, we also had some Bellator on Friday night, and again, results for LFA, for Bellator, for UFC, up at CageMinds.com. You had Bellator 193, the second time on Paramount. Now, in one of the stranger things that I've heard, there were prelims for this card, but it is incredibly hard to find out who won any of them. Like, no reporters reported it. I could tell you, though, the Dominant Wrestling twin brothers, Tyree and Terrell Fortune, did pick up decision victories. Terrell Fortune may be the future of the Bellator heavyweight division, but the president of that division is not all inspiring. But that young man's potential in this sport, it does give you some hope for what they may be doing in the land of the giants. The main card started off with a shocker. In 57 seconds, Jake Smith knocks out huge betting favorite Steve Cazzola. Cazzola, he's had a couple opportunities to really put himself on top. Bellator believes he's a prospect. They've given him some feature fights, but he just hasn't cashed in every time. Cazzola was coming with the big pressure, and Smith caught him with an overhand right, follow-up rights. Cazzola was stunned off the first one, did the chicken leg dance, and gets pounded out. AJ Matthews, in a close fight with Kendall Grove, takes a split decision victory. Matthews did it with head movement, leg kicks, and punching to the body, controlling where and when the exchanges took place. Grove scored an off-balance knockdown in the first round, came in hard in the third round, but AJ Matthews consistently was able to get inside with his footwork, make Grove miss the majority of the time. Definitely the biggest win of his career for young AJ Matthews. Caed Awad quietly building up this win streak again and continues with a co-main event unanimous decision 30-27 across all three scorecards win over JJ Ambrose. Awad early went to the chopping calf kick. Both fighters in that orthodox stance, he just kept taking away the front leg. In round two, there was more kicks, a takedown, and getting the back. Round three, Ambrose with a pair of early takedowns, but Awad was able to sweep, transition, take control, and ride out the last 2.5 minutes in the better position, landing ground and pound. A complete performance for Awad. And in the main event, a actually 180-pound catchweight bout. If you heard me last week incorrectly, I did refer to this contest as a welterweight bout. It's what I thought it was, but 180-pound bout. So I'm not really sure where the winner goes, but Fernando Gonzalez versus Lorenz Larkin was kind of what you expected it to be. Larkin used leg kicks, that teep kick, and body kicks, looking to hit kind of that doughy, pudgy middle that Gonzalez has. Not saying that I don't have one too, but that's what Larkin took advantage of. Also, we knew that Larkin would be the faster fighter. He took advantage of the combos, that speed difference. Gonzalez was not able to put out enough fakes, enough feints to get on the inside and cause enough damage consistently. It was a bull versus a matador. Larkin, hard right hand, a big flurry of elbows to close up the fight. Looked like he had Gonzalez in danger and big damage. Gonzalez now 7-2 in Bellator. Has had a great run, a great story there. But from an outsider's perspective, I wonder how serious the intentions of Bellator of giving Gonzalez a chance are. When 7-1 didn't earn you a title fight, it's hard to say what more you can do. But in this business, it's just always good to have a job. So Lorenz Larkin picks up his first win, 1-2 inside of the Bellator cage. And even though this was a 180-pound catchweight bout, I suspect that Lorenz Larkin's next fight will be against Rory McDonald, and they will be playing off of the success of Larkin inside of the UFC, in which he earns this title opportunity. But I'm pretty sure that's the way that Bellator will be moving forward with this welterweight division, as McDonald has already beat Paul Daly, a Paul Daly who exploded on social media, seems to be gone. When does MVP come back? Is MVP Rory McDonald the fight they make? Do they make a Lorenz Larkin MVP fight? Some questions for where that Bellator welterweight division goes. And now that you also know that the growth on Rory McDonald's leg, there was no break, it was just a hematoma, maybe he's back in action sooner than one would have suspected. I mentioned there were 3 big events this past weekend. There was UFC action. The UFC was in North Carolina. It had been the first time in a while since the UFC had been in North Carolina. And I can't blame them, because the fans deserve better. There were great fans in North Carolina. The crowd looked to be good. But the judging was not consistent. The judging needs to be reprimanded. The judging was detrimental to some fighters. Decisions and scorecards that make you go, huh? I mean, the night started out with some beautiful action. Corey Sandhagen on day's notice, the LFA call-up, taking on Austin Arnett, the Dana White Contender Series vet. The combinations, the free-flowing movement, the outside low kicks, disgusting body shots, an overwhelming striking game, and an overwhelming amount of confusion put out there that just exposed Arnett. A great first-round TKO victory for Corey Sandhagen. Nico Price is tough. Even though he's taken down and beaten up in the first round against George Sullivan, when he was able to get Sullivan's back in the second round, grinding away a little bit at Sullivan, as soon as Sullivan opened up, tried to stand up and expose his neck just a bit, Price snatched the opportunity, sunk in the submission, and got the victory in a fight that George Sullivan looked really good until he didn't, and Nico Price then looked excellent. You start scratching your head when Vince Pichel seemed to get outstruck by Joaquim Silva. A close fight. Both guys had their noses bloodied up. It was a back and forth kickboxing bout. But going to the scorecards, with the mouse under Pichel's eye, with his nose bloodied up, and with Joaquim Silva clean, you figured that Silva would get the decision, but not so fast. Ji Young Kim got the same kind of luck that Pichel got in taking a decision from Justine Kish. Kish, I believe, officially had actually outstruck Kim by nearly 26 strikes, had hit the combinations. It was definite to me, without a doubt, that the first and second rounds went to Kish with her combinations and finishing them off with low kicks. Kim came out very hard with overhands in the third round. I thought stole that third round, but it still, to me, plain as day, should have been a 29-28 decision win for Justine Kish, who rightfully should feel robbed. Randa Marcos was able to put Juliana Lima on the cage in the first round and on her back in the second and third rounds, taking unanimous decision. Marcos, a tough grappler. Caitlin Shukagian defeats Maria Romero Barella by unanimous decision in a women's flyweight bout where it was back and forth striking. It was a test of range, and I think that a lot of what won Shukagian in the fight was volume. It was moving forward. It was just being active. And even though a lot of her shots were falling short in the first round, I think her level of activity may have stolen it. Another controversial fight. One of the highlights of the night for me was the rear back overhand right to the sternum that Mirsad Bektic crushed Godofredo Pepe with, bouncing back in the win column. The Bosnian, another top prospect at 145 pounds, Sanhagen Bektic. I love 145 pounds. There is a ton of young talent in that division to keep an eye on. Bobby Green, after a bad first round, regroups and attacks Eric Koch, lets his hands go, is able to duck and dodge with his awkward Philly shell defense, and also take away Koch's legs with leg kicks. Bobby Green steals the decision in a fight that I couldn't understand how one judge would go unanimously 30-27 for Green. That made no sense to me at all. The main card opened up with another kind of decision. I like Drew Dober, have had the opportunity to interview him before, would like to interview him again. But my opinion, I thought Frank Camacho, after a good first round of having Dober on his back, getting outstruck and put against the cage by Dober in the second round, I thought Camacho did a great job with his body shots, with his step-in knees, in outstriking Dober in the third round. He also had some takedowns, but the judges saw it the other way, going with Dober, who was active, throwing his overhands, landing the majority of the headshots, just showing that the judges in themselves, they were valuing the headshots over the body or leg strikes. Gregor Gillespie remains undefeated, taking down the much bigger Jordan Rinaldi, flattening him out and pounding him into a first-round TKO win. Gillespie said afterwards he's glad that he has a wrestling background, so he's able to rely on that takedown when his striking isn't working, and tonight his striking was not working. We get up to the co-main event, and there's another controversial decision. Andre Fili defeats Dennis Bermudez. The whole fight was a little head-scratching to me as the way the judges saw it. The first round, Fili with his length doing a great job piecing up Bermudez. Even hit some takedowns that definitely threw Bermudez off. Bermudez, though, seemed to take control in the second round with his leg kicks. His pressure and his leg kicks, I thought he eked it out in the third round. We go to the judges' scorecards. So to me, I think it's 29-28 Bermudez. The two judges, though, that score it for Fili go 29-28. Okay, third round was close. Second round, they were still close. I thought Bermudez had edged them out. But obviously, the first round was won by Fili. But the one judge that scores it for Bermudez scores it 30-27. And that's kind of perplexing to me. So across the board, some intriguingly bad scorecards. The Ji-Young Kim definitely lost the first round of Justine Kish. Not sure how the judges could go 30-27. So it had been quite a while since the UFC had been in North Carolina. And with the fight card, the 12 fight card, 6 fights going to the judges was just too many fights going to the judges who were not ready to handle this level of MMA. The main event, no, I did not forget to get to it, but I wanted to talk about the judges, because as we know going in, 37 finishes, 31 first-round finishes between Jacare and Derek Brunson. This one was not going to last long, and of course it didn't. Of course it ended in the first round. Brunson was trying to pressure, was coming forward with his big combinations, as he does, but still the chin is just too high up in the air. Souza was loading up, looking for one big punch. He would do that with the right hand. He would do that with the right body kick. He would do that with the right body kick until he loads up on a right high kick that, even though was partially blocked, got through the hand enough of Brunson to land on the side of the head, knocking that equilibrium off, sending Brunson tumbling towards the cage. Souza would methodically attack, follow up with some punches, forcing referee Dan Miragliotta to jump in, and Jacare is back in the win column, finishing off Derek Brunson in one round. Jacare now, who has left Brazil, moved to Orlando, Florida. His first win fighting out of the same camp, I guess, that Mike Perry's from. A big win for Jacare, as we have a middleweight division that's kind of, again, looking for who's the champion. You do have the fight coming up. Rockhold versus Romero. Reportedly, thankfully, Robert Whittaker is on the road to recovery from that staph infection. And there doesn't have to be any other crazy circumstances. After Rockhold Romero, we should get the winner against Whittaker. Where does that leave Jacare? I think it leaves Jacare still trying to get back into position for a title fight. And another guy who's really trying to position himself for a title fight is Kelvin Gastelum. Gastelum versus Jacare. That's where I believe this fight has led to. And if it's up to me, the UFC needs Fight Night main events, and that sounds like it'll be a great one. Andre Fili possibly earn himself a ranking. Close fight, taking out Bermudez. Bermudez has been a victim of decisions, has not been able to pull them out. Drew Dober says he wants to go back up to 150 or back down to 155 pounds after this trip up to 170. Gregor Gillespie is undefeated. Maybe I'm just making it too simple, but the two of them could get together. Or maybe Gillespie is put in with a real vet like Bobby Green. I just like matching things up where I see them right here, which brings up the point that you could put Andre Touchy-Feely against Mirsad Bektic. Bektic with a huge crushing victory over Pepe, maintaining his ranking in the top 15. Feely beat a guy just getting into the top 15. Maybe I'm making this too simple, but it sounds like that'd be a fun one to put together. So we had LFA, we had Bellator, we had UFC. It was a big weekend for mainstream MMA. It was also a buzz on Twitter Sunday night because of the WWE. The WWE Royal Rumble took place in Philadelphia on Sunday night, and at the conclusion of the event, Ronda Rousey made her official debut and officially announced that she has signed a full deal with the WWE. You would presume then, after the WWE is not so excited to let Brock Lesnar get back into the octagon, that this would signify, at least for the foreseeable future, the end of any MMA talk surrounding Ronda Rousey. Also interesting to just note, Shayna Baszler is a part of the WWE. Jessamyn Duke is on their radar. And Maria Chiffon, the final member of the MMA Four Horsewomen that Ronda Rousey had founded, is, I believe, engaged to WWE performer Roderick Strong, who is a member of the WWE Performance Center and their show NXT. Ronda Rousey moving on. Hopefully the MMA world can also. This weekend, the action gets started Friday night on Access TV. CES MMA 48 from Lincoln, Rhode Island, Twin River Casino. The vacant heavyweight title is up for grabs in the main event. Nearly 100-fight vet. He's fought everywhere. Travis Hume takes on Greg Rebello, a CES staple who had been seen also on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. That's the main event. Couple other fun fights on that card to look forward to. I want to get to a stacked UFC card, though, on Saturday night in Brazil. UFC Fight Night 125. The main event featuring former Alabama linebacker, your boy Eric Anders, the former LFA, I believe inaugural LFA middleweight champion, taking on former UFC light heavyweight champion Lyoto Machida, a 30-fight vet who has, just in MMA, 3 times as much experience as Anders, undefeated at 10-0. A 70% finishing rate, 6 knockouts, 6 first-round finishes. Anders punched UFC vet Rafael Natal into retirement. Machida, coming into this fight on a 3-fight losing streak, has been finished in a couple fights, losing to Derek Brunson, losing to Yoel Romero, losing to Luke Rockhold. But you know what I just said? He's lost 3 straight to guys that are ranked in the top 10. Lost 4 out of his last 5, also losing to Chris Weidman. But Machida has beaten Mark Munoz, Gegard Mousasi, and CB Dalloway. You don't know, is this too much too quickly for Eric Anders? Anders, not calling the dude old, but I believe he is over 30. He's 30 right now. From that college background, he has a little more wear and tear on the body, and I do believe there's an urgency for him to capitalize on the peak that he's at of his physical prime, that he's at the peak of his physical prime. A heavy-handed southpaw that can cause a lot of problems, an explosive athlete. The question for Anders is this too much too soon? The question that we wonder about Machida is, at 39 years old, is this the decline of the Dragon? Has his best years been behind him? This is a dramatic fight because it could be a showcase for Machida to go out on. Is he done? This is a huge opportunity for Anders to knock his way into the top 15, to get into those rankings, to make himself even more known than what he's done in these first 2 UFC outings. And I thought his decision win over Marcus Pettis, he showed a lot in that fight, and even more obviously in that huge quick knockout of Rafael Natal. Eric Anders proving to be a force here on the UFC radar. Can he make it fully happen? Can he boost himself all the way into that contender status? The co-main event, you have the former RFA bantamweight champion Pedro Munoz taking on tough winner John Dodson, the first ever tough bantamweight winner, the magician, ultra fast, heavy-handed, and has again tasted top flight competition. Munoz coming off the big win, getting a submission of Rob Font. We've seen what Rob Font did recently in Massachusetts. This is one of those fights, again, testing Dodson, who's been on the wrong side of 2 close split decisions. The judges see things a little differently, and John Dodson is probably on the cusp of a title fight right now, and 4-0 at 135 pounds in this latest trip, instead of 2-2 right now. It was split decision losses to John Lineker and Marlon Moraes. Dodson will be the faster fighter on the feet. He has heavy hands. Do not question, though, the punching power of Pedro Munoz. The more technical, the more experienced when it comes to MMA, having 28 fights under his belt, is John Dodson. Pedro Munoz, though, has a lot of jiu-jitsu experience, is heavy-handed, and if you get anywhere close to a guillotine, he can submit you. It makes for what I feel is a compelling, intriguing statistical matchup in the co-main event. A feature fight at 125-pound women's division is also on the card, as Priscilla Kohichin, who is 8-0, a heavy-handed striker who will have a 2-inch reach advantage, makes her octagon debut against Valentina Shevchenko, who is right now ranked as the number 1 contender at 125 pounds before fighting in the weight class inside of the octagon. A lot of big expectations on the bullet to reach her full potential in this matchup. A lot of expectations for Valentina to reach her full potential and show us extraordinary things in this weight class. In the lightweight division on the main card, the grappler that gets on top will win, and that'll be a big test for Desmond Green as he takes on the tractor Michel Pizarris, who once he has gone on top of you, he has flattened out nearly everybody that has succumbed to that position. Undefeated Marcelo Gloom, 6-0, coming off of submitting Christian Colombo in his octagon debut. The young Brazilian being handed quite the test to take on Dakota, Minnesota representative Timothy Johnson, rocking the power stash, who has the big frame, gonna be outweighing Gloom probably by 20 pounds come fight time, and likes to get on the inside and use his wrestling. Kicking off the main card, it could be fight of the night. Thiago Mojete Santos and Anthony Lionheart Smith, two heavy-handed, violent finishers in the middleweight division. They like to strike. They have tons of heart. It's going to be incredibly fun to see what happens in this one. It's hard to take both guys down. I don't think that matters. Accuracy is about the same. The statistics from their UFC career and what's tangible that we have is that Santos lands a little bit more and covers up a little bit better. But in the last couple fights, in his win against Hector Lombard, in his return to the big stage after having that opportunity in Strikeforce, in this current 3-fight win streak, you feel like you found something in Anthony Smith. That all the potential, all that athletic ability that he had stored up had finally met with the age and wisdom and experience that comes with having nearly 40 fights in his career. Lionheart seems to be putting it all together. But the same can be said for hard-hitting Thiago Santos, who at a point had been even put in the cage with Gegard Mousasi. When he was on a 4-fight win streak, he had earned that place. This is another big opportunity, I believe, for Santos, even though it's just kicking off the main card. The winner here is on a 4-fight win streak and making a real claim to be right on the heels of the main event winner for where is my spot in that top 15. A great main card, I think, for a UFC Fight Night event. The feature prelim of the card is in the welterweight division and has Tim the Dirty Bird Means, who I do have an interview with up at CageMinds.com, taking on Sergio Moraes. Means felt that he didn't lose the fight against Bilal Muhammad, wants to use a little bit more of his skills, do some things more that the judges will like, but he does recognize that Moraes will be winging bombs and want this fight on the ground. Your featured prelim, Tim Means and Sergio Moraes. Also on that prelim card on FS1, that is just before the main card on FS1. I'm not sure why it's just not UFC Fight Night. On FS1, one of my pet peeves about the UFC, you also get two veterans in the bantamweight division, where Joe Soto in his underrated grappling takes on Yuri Alcantara. Alcantara, the black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, heavy hips, but he seems to get himself in trouble with the wrestling. The guy is heavy-handed. That fight could be a war. You also have two bouts on the Fight Pass prelim card. In the men's flyweight division, Davidson Figueroa, undefeated, takes on undefeated Joseph Morales. Someone's O has got to go. Two scrappy lightweights. I think Figueroa is going to be trying to strike, while Morales will be looking for a submission and taking this one to the ground off of a strike. Also, to close up the show, we'll touch on the CageMinds.com local scene. Some boxing news. We'll let you know that Angelo Leo, who we have an interview of from last week at CageMinds.com and Cage Minds MMA show on YouTube, was victorious once again out there in Las Vegas, remaining undefeated. Cold War 4 from Holmes Boxing took place at Buffalo Thunder. The quick results are up at CageMinds.com. Via decision, though, it was Antonio Toe Martinez defeating Gene Perez, and Jose Osorio continuing his win streak, getting the unanimous nod over Derek Perez. The rest of the results again are up at CageMinds.com. Locally, I was out live at the Embassy Suites for King of the Cage Horizon, a card that was decimated by injuries and just fighters falling off the card in some strange circumstances. Can't get all the way into it, but just heard some really weird things went down with that card. In all, we had 6 fights. We got 5 finishes. You saw Chris Roybal show off some great takedowns in putting Jose Gomez on his back, getting to the top position, and pounding till he got the finish. Chase Eminger immediately wanted to take down Richard Jennings. Jennings tried to get back up but exposed his back. Eminger hops on for the back take, and Eminger gets the submission victory in 32 seconds. In the rematch between Austin Lewis and Nathaniel Gomez, it was Lewis getting on top for the first round, feeling it out. Didn't really look like he knew what he wanted to do with his ground and pound, but winning that first round, and then came out hard in the second round. A 1-2 stunning Gomez. Lewis pulls down the head, a big knee through the middle, lights out the TKO win for Austin Lewis, leading us up to the main event, where Sherwin Price would once again fight Isaac Barnes, and in pretty much the same fashion from their first fight, but this one lasting longer. It was Price getting the takedown, eventually being able to get to the back, and getting Barnes to submit face down to the rear naked choke. Talked to Price afterwards. There was an awkward moment in the fight where their hands were together. They looked like they were going for wrist control, and Price was in mount, and somehow Barnes created a scramble, got back to his feet, was punching. The ref jumps in, a stoppage, a point is taken. Talking to Price in the back, it turns out that illegally Barnes had his fingers inside of Price's glove, and as the ref was trying to break him, was still punching. For the unsportsmanlike conduct and for arguing with the ref, Barnes was deducted 1 point. Still winless in his career, Isaac Barnes, who, after losing the first fight to Price, came in with such emotion that prior to the fight, I was told, as I was some feet back from the cage, was yelling across the cage, "Not again, not again." But it did happen again. Still undefeated. Sherwin Price, can't wait till we get to see him take a step up in competition. A martial artist nicknamed the Genius, who keeps evolving in front of us. Another young talent coming out of Fit NHB. Talking about some young talent, also recurring report, besides boxing action out in Las Vegas, there was also real MMA. Cole Griego from the Jackson Wink Academy, with I believe a 37-second first round knockout, has won the real MMA amateur bantamweight title. Latrell Yee, now product Chris Rojas, his first fight with the camp, and he is victorious in attaining the real MMA featherweight title. Congratulations to both of them. And in a follow-up to our King of the Cage Horizon recap, did not mention it, but submission of the night honors go to Chase Eminger and to Sherwin Price. Knockout of the night to Austin Lewis. No fight of the night on that card. A 6-fight card where, if you really want to grind my gears, honestly, knowing that the card had kind of taken some hits and it kind of fallen apart a little bit, with 6 fights going in, my fingers were crossed that we'd have a quick night of action. Now, going in, knowing that they said doors were at 6, first fight was at 7, there would be a late start. Not unexpected that the first fight got started just before 7:30. But leaving at 10:15, I did not expect a 3-hour affair. I did not honestly expect a intermission of 25 minutes after 3 fights. I did not expect an intermission after the final amateur fight where King of the Cage took in champions, alumni, a current world champion. It's great to see those people get the deserved respect and admiration from the community. But I gotta be honest, as a reporter, I see all this stuff and I wonder how would I take it as a paying consumer. I would be irate. First off, getting to the venue and hearing that it was going to be a small night of fights. And that would lead me again to also think it'd be a quick night of fights. Pay to see fights. That's what I'm here to do. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't like the other filler entertainment in between. I'm here to see fights. Let's see fights. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not. Comment, come back at me. Let me know what you guys think. King of the Cage, they did what they could, though, to still put on a show. And with 5 finishes and 6 fights, I still had fun because I like to go to fights to watch people fight. And when there's a finish, we definitely know who the winner is. And I find that great of all. So give it up to the fighters who still fought, who manned up, who got in that cage, who did it for the local scene. Some great prospects coming up. Chase Eminer now 2-3 in a row. Austin Lewis back in the win column. And Sherwin Price continuing to roll. King of the Cage Horizon. Still a fun night, even though I thought it was going to be a little bit quicker than it was. Keeping it going on the local scene, what do you have to look forward to next? February 24th, the Jackson's MMA series up at Buffalo Thunder. The main event, a featherweight matchup. Someone's always got to go. Jess Martinez, Royce Aceto. I can't wait for that one. In March, it's been announced that you have Route to Glory, Legacy Boxing Promotions, Josh Pitbull Torres, Christian Cabral, the professional debut of Angel Perez. We have a article up at cageminds.com in the boxing section. All your details for Route to Glory can be found in that article. Once again, I got to give a shout out to Edwin Ruiz, Mac10, MMA CK10. Check them out on Facebook. While you're there, also give us a like. Cage Minds Combat Sports News. Keep up with me on Twitter and Instagram. Caged Minds MMA. Thanks for joining me this week, and enjoy the fights.